Good evening. We're going to continue with our lesson. This is chapter 27, and I'm going to break it up into two parts because it is a little bit longer chapter. Because Russian guys are not always geniuses. After my grandmother died, I felt like crawling into the coffin with her. After my dad's best friend got shot in the face, I wondered if I was destined to get shot in the face too. Considering how many young Spokanes have died in car wrecks, I'm pretty sure it's my destiny to die in a wreck too. Geez, I've been to so many funerals in my short life. I'm 14 years old. I've been to 42 funerals. That's really the biggest difference between Indians and white people. A few of my white classmates have been to a grandparent's funeral, and a few have lost an uncle or an aunt, and one guy's brother died of leukemia when he was in the 3rd grade. But there's no one who's been to more than 5 funerals. All my white friends can count their deaths on one hand. I can count my fingers, toes, arms, legs, eyes, ears, nose, penis, butt cheeks, and nipples and still not get close to my deaths. And you know what the worst part is? The unhappy part. About 90% of the deaths have been because of alcohol. Gordy gave me this book by a Russian dude named Tolstoy, who wrote, "Happy families are all alike. Every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way." Well, I hate to argue with a Russian genius, but Tolstoy didn't know Indians, and he didn't know that all Indian families are unhappy for the exact same reason, the freaking booze. Yep, so let me pour a drink for Tolstoy and let him think hard about the true definition of unhappy families. Okay, so you're probably thinking, I'm being extra bitter. And I would have to agree with you. I'm being extra bitter. So let me tell you why. Today around 9 a.m. as I sat in chemistry, there was a knock on the door, and Miss Warren, the guidance counselor, stepped into the room. Dr. Noble, the chemistry teacher, hates being interrupted, so he gave the old stink eye to Miss Warren. "Can I help you, Miss Warren?" Dr. Noble asked, except he made it sound like an insult. "Yes," she said. "May I speak to Arnold in private?" "Can this wait? We are going to have a quiz in a few moments." "I need to speak with him now, please." "Fine, Arnold, go with Miss Warren." I gathered up my books and followed Miss Warren out into the hallway. I was a little worried. Wondered if I'd done something wrong. I couldn't think of anything I'd done that would merit punishment, but I was still worried. I didn't want to get in any kind of trouble. "What's going on, Miss Warren?" I asked. She started crying, weeping, just those big old whooping tears. I thought she was going to fall over on the floor and start screaming and kicking like a 2-year-old. "Geez, Miss Warren, what is it? What's wrong?" She hugged me hard. I have to admit that it felt pretty dang good. Miss Warren was like 50 years old, but she was still pretty hot. She was all skinny and muscular because she jogged all the time. So I was sort of physically reacted to her hug. And the thing is, Miss Warren was hugging me so tight that I was pretty sure she could feel my physical reaction. I was kind of proud, you know. "Arnold, I'm sorry," she said, "but I just got a phone call from your mother. It's your sister. She's passed away." "What do you mean?" I asked. I knew what she meant, but I wanted her to say something else. Anything else. "Your sister's gone," Miss Warren said. "I know she's gone," I said. "She lives in Montana now." I knew I was being an idiot, but I figured if I kept being an idiot, if I didn't actually accept the truth, then the truth would become false. "No," Miss Warren said. "Your sister, she's dead." That was it. I couldn't fake my way around that. Dead is dead. I was stunned, but I wasn't sad. The grief didn't hit me right away. No, I was mostly ashamed of my physical reaction to the hug. Yep, I had a big erection when I learned of my sister's death. How perverted is that? How inappropriately hormonal can one boy be? "How did she die?" I asked. "Your father is coming to get you," Miss Warren said. "He'll be here in a few minutes. You can wait in my office." How did she die? I asked again. Your father is coming to get you, Miss Warren said again. I knew then that she didn't want to tell me how my sister had died. I figured it must have been an awful death. Was she murdered? I asked. Your father is coming. Man, Miss Warren was a lame counselor. She didn't know what to say to me, but then again, I couldn't really blame her. She'd never counseled a student whose sibling had just died. Was my sister murdered? I asked. Please, Miss Warren said, you need to talk to your father. She looked so sad that I let it go. Well, I mostly let it go. I certainly didn't want to wait in her office. The guidance office was filled with self-help books and inspirational posters and SAT books and college brochures and scholarship applications, and I knew that none of that, absolutely none of it, meant shit. I knew I'd probably tear her office apart if I had to wait there. Miss Warren, I said, I want to wait outside. But it's snowing, she said. Well, that would make it perfect then, wouldn't it? I said. It was a rhetorical question, meaning there wasn't supposed to be an answer, right? But poor Miss Warren, she answered my rhetorical question. No, I don't think it's a good idea to wait in the snow, she said. You're very vulnerable right now. Vulnerable? She told me I was vulnerable. My sister was dead. Of course I was vulnerable. I was a reservation Indian attending an all-white school and my sister had just died some horrible death. I was the most vulnerable kid in the United States. Miss Warren was obviously trying to win the Captain Obvious Award. I'm waiting outside, I said. I'll wait with you, she said. Kiss my ass, I said, and ran. Miss Warren tried to run after me, but she was wearing heels and she was crying and absolutely freaked out by my reaction to bad news. By my cursing, she was nice, too nice to deal with death, so she just ran a few feet before she stopped and slumped against the wall. I ran by my locker, grabbed my coat, and headed outside. There was maybe a foot of snow on the ground already. It was going to be a big storm. I suddenly worried that my father was going to wreck his car on the icy roads. Oh man, wouldn't that just be perfect? Yep. How Indian would that be? Imagine the stories I could tell. Yeah, when I was a kid, just after I learned that my big sister died, I also found out my father died in a car wreck on the way to pick me up from school. So I was absolutely terrified as I waited. I prayed to God that my father would come driving up in his old car. Please, God, please don't kill my daddy. Please, God, please don't kill my daddy. Please, God, please don't kill my daddy. 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes went by. I was freezing. My hands and feet were big blocks of ice. Snot ran down my face. My ears were burning cold. Oh, Daddy, please. Oh, Daddy, please. Oh, Daddy, please. Please. Oh, man, I was absolutely convinced that my father was dead, too. It had been too long. He'd driven his car off a cliff, had drowned in the Spokane River, or he lost control and slid across the center lane and spun right into the path of a logging truck. Daddy, 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 Daddy. But just when I thought I'd start screaming and run around like a crazy man, my father drove up. I started laughing. I was so relieved, so happy that I had laughed. I couldn't stop laughing. I ran down the hill and jumped in the car and hugged my dad. I laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. Junior, he said, what's wrong with you? You're alive. I shouted, you're alive. But your sister, he said, I know. I said, I know she's dead, but you're alive. You're still alive. I laughed and laughed. I couldn't stop laughing. I felt like I might die of laughing. I couldn't figure out why I was laughing, but I kept laughing as my dad drove out of Reardon and headed through the storm back to the reservation. And finally, as we crossed the reservation border, I stopped laughing.